welcome to another episode of Cooking with Katie from Cookery Doodle Doo. We're going to make some corn drops today. So corn drops are like little fritters made out of sweet corn, but instead of frying them, we're actually going to bake them, which we've tested both and we prefer the baked version. If you do want to fry them though, that's absolutely fine. You'll just need a nice large frying pan at medium heat, and you'll be able to just spoon in the mixture, as I'm going to show you a bit later on, cook it on one side and then just flip it over, just the same as you would for American pancakes. They'll take about 3 minutes per side doing them that way. Make sure you don't have your pan too hot because they do burn quite easily if you're frying them. But I'm going to show you how to do them in the oven. And one thing you'll absolutely need to make this easy to make is some kind of food processor or blender, because we're going to mush up some sweet corn. So anything you've got, like any of these here behind me, will be fine. So either a food processor, this is the blender attachment for it. If you've got a stick blender, that will work absolutely fine. So one of these things, just make sure that you do it in something with fairly high sides and a flat bottom, just to make it a lot easier. If you do it in something too shallow, you'll end up covered in sweet corn, and if you do it in anything with a rounded bottom, it'll be really hard to get the mixture whizzed up. So you can use a stick blender, or alternatively, if your blender comes with one of these things, this is what I'm going to use today to just whiz up that sweet corn. If you don't have anything like that you can plug in and whiz up, then you can still make these, but it's going to be a bit harder. You can either use one of these, which is a pestle and mortar, and before you mix anything else together, you'll need to put just the sweet corn in here and really grind that up until you get it into quite a thick paste. Alternatively, you can just put your sweet corn in a shallow bowl or dish or something like that and use a potato masher, but again, you're going to have to work quite hard to mush that sweet corn up. But those are options available to you if you don't have a food processor or a blender. Okay, so I am, however, going to use this today. So I'm just going to open this up and we're just going to make our batter mixture first of all. Okay, so into this bowl here, I'm just going to tip an entire can of sweet corn. I've already drained this, so there shouldn't be too much liquid left in here. If you've got frozen sweet corn, that's absolutely fine. It's just about 150 grams of sweet corn, which you just need to defrost first. But if you just take it out of the freezer an hour or two in advance and spread it out on a flat plate with a bit of kitchen paper or something like that underneath, that will defrost very quickly. Okay, so we're just going to put the sweet corn directly into the bowl. Oops, just mind the sharp edges with your fingers. Okay, so that's in there. We're going to use half an egg to bind this together. Now obviously, if you want to, you can double this mixture up very easily, and then you just need to put a whole egg in. We've eaten a lot of these this week already, so I'm not going to make a full sort of 12 fritter batch now. I'm just going to make the 6. So I'm just going to use half of this egg, which just uses the one small can of sweet corn, but you can use one of the larger cans of sweet corn. Absolutely fine. Okay, so just like I've shown you before, we're going to tap and listen to crack our egg. There we go, we can hear it very, very easily. Find that hole, give it a thumbs up. Thumbs go together and have a little kiss, go into the egg. And they have an argument and the egg and the shell comes apart. You've seen me do that lots before now. Okay, I'm just going to use my fork to whisk up this egg. Now, something I've had to learn, I go and cook in childminders quite often, and when I cook in childminders, we quite often have to do half batches of cakes and muffins, that kind of thing, because it's just too many if 10 children are cooking at once to make 6 muffins each. So I've learnt over the last few years how to do half an egg, because it's actually quite difficult when you've got to beat an egg to get it exactly half. It tends to all sort of want to stay together and blob about. If you just put a little drop of water into your beaten egg, you don't need very much at all, but that just seems to make a huge difference in being able to divide beaten egg. It doesn't seem to want to blob together quite as much. Okay, and then another little tip I've talked about before is weighing things and converting things between millilitres and grams quite easily. The more dense and viscous a liquid is, the more inaccurate this is. But an egg weighs about 60 grams, so if you want half an egg, it's about 30 grams, which is about the same as 30 millilitres or 2 tablespoons. So that's just how I'm going to get my half egg here. You can absolutely just judge this by eye though. But you can see I can actually get a tablespoon of this egg mixture quite easily. If I hadn't put the water in, that egg would pretty much just fall out again with my spoon. I'm just going to put a little bit more. Okay, so that half egg there I can use for egg washes, or just put in the next scrambled eggs we do, or anything like that. That's still useful. So obviously don't throw away half an egg, particularly as they're quite precious at the moment. We're going to put in quite a lot of salt because these do need a fair amount of salt to season them. So I'm going to put in just under half a teaspoon of salt there. Okay, and quite a decent few grinds of pepper as well. Obviously do that to your own taste. And then I'm just going to pop in a spring onion as well. I've already taken the ends off this and I've peeled off that kind of papery outer layer. I'm just going to use some scissors to just snip that in. If you haven't got any spring onion, then by all means just use a bit of regular or red onion. Just chop them up a little bit before you put them in, and you won't need very much, just enough to help flavour that a little bit. And all I'm going to do now is get a little bit noisy to whiz this up. Just need to put the lid on. There we go, and we're just going to whiz this into a paste basically. So you can see there what we've got is quite a thick paste. The sweet corn, there are still some chunks in there, but none too big. It's turned itself pretty much into a paste. And at this point and not before, this is when we're going to add some flour. So I've got 25 grams of self-raising flour here. I'm just going to pop that in. If you put this in too soon and whiz it for too long, you'll develop the gluten in the flour, and that will essentially make your pancakes, your fritters a little bit tough. So we put that in right at the end, and we're just going to give that another quick whiz just to mix it in. If you've got plain flour instead of self-raising flour, then that's absolutely fine. Just add a good big pinch of baking powder and that'll be fine. Okay, that should be enough. Okay, so I'm just going to get that blade out of the way. Grab a spoon. Any flour that's still around the edges, just mix it through. To be honest, you don't even need to blend the flour in. I was just being a bit lazy. You could just stir it through. Just make sure it's well distributed. Okay, now you need to decide how many people are going to be eating these fritters. This mixture will make about 6, so it'll make 3 for 2 people or 2 for 3 people. I'm just going to divide this into half now and just show you how easy it is to add a different flavour per person. But you just need to decide, everybody gets their own bowl, everybody gets their own spoon, and everybody can decide what they want to put in this now. You don't have to put anything in at all, but it is quite nice just to add something a bit different. So, I've got 2 bowls here. I'm just going to share this mixture out between the 2. It doesn't need to be perfect. There we go. So if we've done that as a team, everybody can start to work on their own mixture now. So I'm just going to get another spoon here. So I want you to imagine I'm 2 people now. So the first person has chosen that they want ham and cheddar into their mixture. I'm just going to put a really good big pinch of each. It's hard to give you exact measurements, just kind of have a look when you've stirred it in and see what you think, to be honest. You obviously want it to hold together as a mixture. but you need enough in there to be able to taste it. And obviously depending on what you're using, you'll need differing amounts. So I'm going to put some chilli flakes in my next one in a minute. You obviously wouldn't put a great big pinch of chilli flakes in the way I just did with the ham. Okay, so there's the ham and cheese one mixed together. Okay, in this other bowl, I'm going to add, as I just said, some chilli flakes. Nice big pinch. We quite like chilli in this house, so I'm going to be quite brave. Okay, and then I've got another spring onion here that I've just chopped up as well, so I'm going to pop that in. Obviously slightly chunkier bits. And then a really nice big pinch of fresh coriander. If you're using dried herbs, don't use too many because they won't really have time to cook or rehydrate. This recipe cooks so quickly, so you can use a little bit for flavour, but just don't put too much or you'll find they go a bit, you'll be able to feel them in between your teeth, which won't be very nice. Okay, so we've got one mixture with ham and cheese, and we've got one mixture with chilli, spring onion and coriander. And what I'm going to do now is just get these ready to bake. So I've got a baking sheet here. I've got my silicone mat. If you don't have one, don't worry. To be honest, I wouldn't bother with any baking paper or anything like that. Just make sure you grease your tray really well. So use some oil. I'm going to put a bit here just to show you. I don't really need it with this silicone mat, but I've got a spray oil. If you don't have a spray oil, then just put a teaspoon or so of oil on there and just spread it out with a bit of kitchen roll, something like that. And then all I'm going to do now is with each batch, I'm going to make 3 fritters. So I'm just going to get a spoonful and make a blob. Okay, we can play with these a little bit in a minute. You just want to make sure the blobs are of similar size. So I can say I definitely need some more in that first one. There we go. And I'm just going to push them out a little bit. You want them all to be the same thickness, so the same height. You don't want kind of really thin edges. So it doesn't matter if one's a bit smaller than the other, as long as they're a similar depth. So there we go, those are the ham and cheese ones. And then over here, I'm going to do exactly the same again. They won't really spread out too much when they're cooking, but obviously make sure they're not touching, or they'll just all become one big fritter. You can obviously make these, if you want to, a lot smaller. Just use a teaspoon instead of a tablespoon. Maybe if you've got babies who are doing baby-led weaning, something like that, obviously make sure it's the right consistency and be careful what you put in there. But you could make lovely little tiny ones for the baby to munch on. Obviously big enough for them to hold and chew at the same time. But a teaspoon would make a really good mini fritter. When you're eating these, you're definitely going to want something to dip them into. So whether it's ketchup, mayonnaise, guacamole, sweet chilli sauce, bit of yoghurt with some mint in it maybe might be nice. Anything like that, but you're going to want something a bit wet to just dip them into, which makes them even more delicious. But there we go. Those are our fritters. I'm going to pop these into an oven at 200 degrees. I'm going to cook them for about 7 or 8 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is just have a look, and if they seem to be kind of set on top or nearly set, I'm going to flip them over and cook them on the other side for about the same length of time. So it'll be about 15 minutes in total. So I will show you what they look like in a bit. Okay, so these have had 7 minutes on each side, so I just set the timer for 7 minutes, turn them over, put them back in and set the timer for another 7 minutes, and the beep has just gone off, so we're going to show you what they look like. Okay, so as you can see, they've just gone nice and brown at the edges, they're nice and set, not gone too hard. And you can obviously very easily see, because I had very different colour mixtures, which one's which. If you are cooking quite a few at the same time, I forgot to say earlier, but you might want to just label them with a bit of baking paper or something with each person's name on, just to make sure you are getting the right ones. But Yep, those are our cheese and ham ones, and those are our chilli, coriander and sweet corn ones, and we are going to enjoy these in a little while with some chilli sauce. I hope you enjoy them. Bye!